Hey everybody, Nano Reef here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about 5 mistakes that you might be making in the reef keeping hobby right now and you don't even realize it. I also give some helpful tips and solutions to these potential concerns. Mistake number 1 is not including enough empty hermit crab shells in your aquarium. This tank's pretty dirty because it really needs an algae scrub. It's been about a week since it's had one. But I really want to talk about hermit crab shells today. Hermit crabs don't grow their own shells. They can only move into bigger shells that they find in your aquarium. So I've got some hermit crabs in this reef tank, some scarlet hermit crabs and some blue leg hermit crabs. You'll see that my blue leg hermit crab at the top here actually has an Asterina snail shell on. But a lot of people get these hermit crabs and they put them in their tank and they just don't have enough extra shells for the hermit crabs. So that's one mistake that I think a lot of reef keepers make. You can see here I've got some extra shells. You can see over here I've got a whole bunch of extra shells. And what's funny is my watchman Goby back here actually uses those extra shells as part of his house. So yeah, having these extra shells is really important for your hermit crab guys. I would definitely advise that you put extra shells in your reef tank. You can usually go to your local fish store and just ask, and they'll normally give you a handful of extra shells for $1 or $2. Mistake number 2 is not using a consistent tool to measure your salt when you're mixing your new water for a water change. So this is Red Sea salt. When you get a Red Sea salt bucket, you don't get a measuring cup with the Red Sea salt. Now, if you've ever had anything like Aquaforest, or you've maybe had a brand of salt that gives you a little measuring tool. For example, here's my Aquaforest little cup here that came with my Aquaforest salt. This has 2 lines on it that are really hard to see, but it's a 5 and a 10, basically how much water you're making here. Maybe those are because it's liters or something weird like that. But having a little cup like that to consistently measure your salt is going to mean that when you're mixing your salt, it's going to be 10 times easier, because I know that when I make my salt, I put it right up here and I do, usually 1 full line up to here and then 1 a little bit lower, and that gives me the 1.025 or 1.026 salinity that I'm looking for every time. And this isn't even that accurate. If you have something better than this, I would highly suggest it. If you're using something like a 1 cup measure or something that's a little more exact, and you maybe mix your salt and pay attention to exactly how much you're putting in there. Like Instant Ocean, they tell you usually ½ a cup per gallon. So maybe start with that and just see if that applies to your salt. But that is definitely one mistake I see all the time, is people struggle with mixing salt consistently. And then not only is water changes with incorrect salinity going to harm and shock your tank, but it's also going to make it more frustrating for you, and you're going to be way less likely to do water changes if you're having a hard time mixing salt with a consistent salinity. The third mistake is thinking that fish are easy to care for and only feeding flake food when frozen is available. I see a lot of people feeding flakes, and honestly, fish are one of the hardest parts of this hobby. I feel like I can get coral, put it in my tank, and for the most part, it's going to do okay as long as it's in good lighting, a tank with good water parameters, and has some decent flow. If you have too little lighting or too little flow, your corals are probably going to be okay. Yeah, they might not grow as fast, they may not open up as much, but they won't die on you. Where a fish, if you were feeding your fish, either too little or too much, or your water quality gets unstable, your fish will literally die on you overnight in those kinds of scenarios. And feeding your fish something like frozen food is going to ensure that your fish has the best diet possible, the best nutritional value. What this is right here, this is cyclopes and mysis shrimp together. I always feed this to my reef tanks almost every day. And basically with this, I haven't seen any rise in ammonia or any rise in phosphates. Where when I'm feeding flakes, I see a really big spike in my phosphates and other nutrients in the aquarium. And this is a really beneficial way to feed my fish, get them really healthy, and give them the best chance of success in my reef tank. The fourth mistake is waiting for your DI resin to completely turn brown before changing your DI resin chamber filter. You gotta change your DI resin. Get color changing DI resin, guys. As soon as that color starts to change on more than 2/3 of your DI resin, you need to start considering changing that DI resin out. The reason being, if you're letting your DI resin go all the way till it's all brown and all the blue or purple is gone, you're not getting the most out of your DI resin, because some of those resins in there are going to be depleted quicker than others. So you might have 2/3 of your DI resin turn brown, while the last 1/3 will stay blue or purple, which would be the original color. And waiting for that to deplete is going to mean that you're letting those other elements go through your system because they're not getting caught by the DI resin, because those resins that would deplete those elements of the water are already used up. So definitely change your DI resin, guys. I've got some DI resin in one of my chambers that I need to change today, so I'm going to be using Kohler Labs DI resin. Not a recommendation or sponsor, this is just what I personally have picked up in the past, but any resin will work great. And lastly, mistake number 5 is using too much light in your aquarium and bleaching your corals. A lot of people will get units like this, a Kessel. This is a Kessel 360 XE, or they'll get something like a Radion XR15, and they'll just pump this puppy up to about 25 or 30%, maybe even 40%, and think that, oh, it's nowhere near 100%, that's perfect for my corals, they'll be fine. Let me show you guys something real quick. This is my Fluval Evo 13.5. It's using a 16 watt light. 16 watts is able to grow these mushrooms down here. It's able to grow this Duncan coral. I'm growing this candy cane beautifully. I've got this gold hammer here that's doing fantastic. Yeah, not the best color, but it's growing. I've got these utter chaos zoas down here, this leather coral. All of these corals are doing great in this tank with a 16 watt light. Now this Kessel is a 90 watt light. So if I take 90 watts and I want to achieve a 16 watt light result, because let's say I have all my coral on my Fluval 13.5 and then I put a Kessel like this on my Fluval 13.5, I want to start the corals at an equivalent to the light that they currently have so I can acclimate them to a higher light intensity. So what that's going to mean is this 90 watt light is going to need to run no more than 17%. 17% on this Kessel would be about 16 watts on the Kessel. So if you're getting a Kessel and you're turning it up to 20 or 30 or 40%, that's way too much, guys. You're gonna bleach your corals, you're gonna burn, whatever corals are at the top there. You're gonna give them way too much light. The other hard part about this is if you get a light like this, it doesn't necessarily come with an app. This Kessel, you turn these knobs and it turns the light on. If you get a Kessel, you have to get a Wi-Fi dongle to control it with the app. So there's no way for me to know exactly where 17% of this light's intensity is, but I'm gonna start it extremely low. In this case, since I don't have the Wi-Fi dongle, I'm honestly gonna start it where just when it turns on. I'm gonna turn it on like that and I'm gonna see how my corals react. If they're all closed up, maybe they have too little light and I'll turn it up just a little bit more. I mean like a hair more. And then if they're still closed up, then maybe I'll try and get like a Wi-Fi dongle and really see where the intensity is. The Wi-Fi dongle is obviously on my list of must-haves for this light. I don't really know how people run it without it because it's just not scientific enough for me. I need more data than just this little knob, but at the same time, I love the simplicity of this knob where I can turn it to a spectrum that looks good on a low intensity and know that my corals are getting the type of light that they need and they're getting the right spectrum that they need. And the fact that there's no app is really nice in the sense that if the app ever is discontinued or if the Wi-Fi dongle is no longer supported, this light will still function 10 years from now, even if there is no more app. I can just take the Wi-Fi dongle off and adjust it with the knobs, which I think is brilliant. One last mistake is that people don't use desiccant in their salt buckets to keep their salt from turning into one solid chunk when exposed to humidity and moisture. Using desiccant in your salt bucket is an awesome tip because it'll keep your salt fresh and ready to mix today, a week from now, or even months from now. Take a look at the salt bucket right here. It's eventually going to get moisture in the bucket. Don't put the desiccant in the salt. This bucket has a bag, so thankfully I can just go and throw my desiccant in there outside of the bag, take my salt bucket lid, put it on, and close it up. And that desiccant bag is going to absorb all the moisture in that bucket and keep my salt nice and fresh. All right, everybody, those are 5 quick and easy mistakes that you're making on your reef tank right now, and 5 easy solutions and things that you should improve upon if you're making those mistakes. If you found this helpful, please like this video and leave a comment below. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Check out the new video on this tank, by the way. It's an awesome one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care.